Welcome to the Let's Talk Politics Alabama podcast with your host, Daniel Stover and Russ Sanders, where we take a look at Alabama politics like a drive down I-65 from North Alabama to the state capital in Montgomery and all the way to the Sugar Sand Coast.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
We choose truth over facts. I don't want to speak negatively. I said, though, that if I lose this election, maybe I'll end up moving to Alabama.
Someone has once said that actually, as long as there are final exams, there will be prayer in schools.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Let's Talk Politics Alabama podcast. This week, we're taking a little bit of break, sort of, from our usual politics. Russ has got a special guest. Russ, you want to introduce your guest?
I'll introduce my smarter half. It's my wife, Melissa. She's in the information technology industry with a local company here, and she's pretty familiar with the ins and outs of connecting wireless and fiber and that to various commercial applications. So I asked her to come along since we was going to talk to this fine gentleman about the internet and the broadband coming to the local area, because she'd be more well versed on it.
Yeah, she's the smarter one out of the two of us.
That is correct.
So,
I don't know about that.
All right, and tonight we've got from Joe Wheeler's Flash Fiber, Michael Cornelison. You're the spokesman for Joe Wheeler Flash Fiber. What else you want to tell us about yourself there? I see you got a bunch of guitars back there.
I do have a bunch of guitars, and I can play most of them. So I came to Joe Wheeler EMC a little over 4 years ago. I used to be an art director for Alabama Living magazine, which is part of the Alabama Rural Electric Association. So I had a tie-in to Joe Wheeler and the electric co-ops already. I came up here, like I said, about 4 years ago with my family. We live in Trinity. I have a degree from Auburn University, Montgomery, the smaller Auburn.
War Eagle.
And it's in graphic design and marketing. And then I'm working on my MBA at University of North Alabama right now. So right now I'm the communications director for Joe Wheeler EMC, and since we've started the fiber company, I'm also the communications director for Flash Fiber, and Joe Wheeler EMC, JWEMC Communications is the name of the communication company.
Well, now, I know back, I guess it's been nearly 2 years ago now, but we started having community meetings about Joe Wheeler. We're thinking about doing this. And it was put to a vote, and I don't remember exactly what the vote was, but I think it passed pretty resoundingly, didn't it?
It did. We had about 21% of our membership. We're an electric cooperative. We have 43,000 members. About 21% of our membership voted, and of those, I think it was 94.6 or 96.4% voted to approve Joe Wheeler EMC starting a fiber company, and that was a requirement of our bylaws. We cannot just start a company that doesn't have to do with electricity without the approval of our membership. So they overwhelmingly approved. Those meetings were a big help, and that kind of is what kicked it off. So,
now, I know back during that time, y'all didn't know exactly what the service was going to necessarily be able to provide. I know Russ and Melissa and I both, or all three of us, attended at least one, if not two, of those meetings. I don't remember the speeds that were offered then, but I know since looking on the Flash Fiber site, it looks like you're going to have a 300 meg, 1 gig, and a 2 gig package for the residential, right?
Yes, that's correct. Originally, yeah, you're right. We weren't sure. We knew we would offer up to 1 gig. We weren't sure what the other package. We weren't sure if we're going to offer 1 or 2 or 3 packages. But once we got to putting it together, doing the engineering, we found that it was going to be possible for us to offer a 2 gig package. And I got to tell you, we've had a lot more people take us up on that than we thought, which is great. You know, the 1 and 2 gig packages actually make up about 40% of what people are ordering right now.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Melissa and I were talking about it the other day and said, okay, so what are we going to try to get here? She works IT from home, so I imagine she's going to aim for that 2 gig package, no problem. Heck, I'm on AT&T Uverse. No, we're not paid by Uverse. But, I'm getting, I think it's 24 meg download and like only a 1.5 up, which makes it really hard for uploading like the podcast or I do our church services, and those will run 4 and 5 gig just in one service. And I have to let that run at night. And so even just the small package of what y'all are offering, the 300 meg, is going to make a world of difference in my world. Now, let's see. Now, there was some legislation that was passed. I know Senate Bill 215 was passed through the Alabama Senate, and it established the Alabama Digital Expansion Authority. I had to write that down, to oversee broadband expansion. And in May, I know that there was 36 grants given out by the state, totaling around $17 million that Governor Ivey signed. And then there's FCC programs that's providing, I think it was 2019, and it's $20.4 billion over the next 10 years. Is any of that coming to Flash Fiber to help, build the infrastructure or provide that for us?
So right now, the only outside money that we have been awarded are the rural development, the RDOF grants put out by the federal government. Those were a reverse auction, and it allowed everybody to bid it down. And what ended up happening, quite frankly, is our competition bid it all the way down to. So we got a grand total over the next 10 years of $167,000.
Really?
So it didn't quite go the way we planned, but that's not going to affect, how we build this. It's not going to slow us down. It's not going to stop us. We're still building. It is a little disappointing, but that's just the way it works. That's the way the system works. Now, we haven't gotten anything from the state yet. We are applying for places where we can apply, and we're trying in different areas that we can. We do want to be careful not to tie ourselves to outside influence, I guess, over what we're doing. So, but those are all things that we're considering. I mean, we'll if you know anybody that wants to send us some money, go ahead and I'll get them a phone number. We can get them set up. I mean, we are trying.
Well, hey, I know I'd like to send you some money if y'all just go ahead and run that cable on over here.
Yeah,
in fact, a couple of weeks ago, my wife noticed that one of the Joe Wheeler trucks carrying a spool of wire down the road here. So I, of course, being nosy, I drove off down the road down here to see what was going on, find out, oh, it's literally right around the curb from our house. And so that kind of brings me to a question, and I know this is on Melissa's list here. All right. They've made it past our house now.
Yes.
The cable is up. You know, I see these big round things hanging on the poles and stuff. Number one, how much longer is it going to be until y'all start hooking us up? And then what's those big spools of wire for?
All right. Well, let's take these one at a time. First of all, I guess it'd be good to talk about, we are actually installing in homes right now. We have about 80 paying customers, and that's growing every day. We're installing more every day. We're kind of getting cranked up on that. We are, and like I said, about 40% of those are 1 and 2 gig customers. The rest are 300 meg. We've got a couple of businesses. Those are right around the Caddo, Trinity, Lawrence County side of Trinity right now. We also have some going right over into Trinity going toward Decatur, and then we're about to open up Trinity proper and north of there, going into the industrial parks. So all those are in the works right now, and there's a lot of fiber hung there. I've got a map that I can show you. It shows where the fiber is hung, and it's kind of marked red. The red is where the fiber is actually hung, and then there's a green line that shows where the backbone, which is the 3 loops that will connect all this together, and then there's the blue lines that kind of show where it's going out into the community. So right now we are installing. We're working our way toward, like I said, we're coming north of Trinity, and then we're going back west toward Moulton. And then once we get over into Moulton, we are going to going out west. That wasn't the original plan, but because we've got a lot of construction to do in Zone 4 as we set it up, because there's a lot of construction involved. We have to replace a lot of poles if there's not enough clearance. If it's an old pole that won't handle the extra weight, we're having to replace a lot of poles. There's a lot of that to do in Zone 4 from Moulton going toward Hartselle in the Danville area. So there's not as much to do out west going toward Mount Hope, and we're hanging fiber out there right now. So to answer your question, right now, when the fiber crews catch up with the construction crews, they're going out to where there are long spans and they can put a whole spool of fiber up all at once and hanging that. So what you're seeing in some areas, and I've gotten a lot of calls about this, are they're hanging that fiber, but it's not connected yet. So it's in the air, but that's backbone fiber. It's not connected yet, and it's probably going to be, our timeline right now is we expect to be in Moulton by the end of the year, very first of next year, and that's installing in homes in that area. And then we'll start heading west toward Mount Hope area and then up toward Hatton. So Mount Hope by spring, Hatton middle of the next year, maybe a little faster, maybe a little slower, depends on weather, depends on, all kind of different factors. But right now, that's what the plan is. In the meantime, they'll be doing that construction to the east and getting that ready to start installing. That's what the plan is, and that's why you're seeing that fiber, and they're hanging that fiber up. So they're not connected yet in those areas, but when they get there, it'll be there already, and it's just going to help speed things along when they get ready to actually start connecting.
So I guess that's the reason you've got those big loops of extra cable hanging on the poles.
So the loops of extra cable hanging on the poles, they put those in. Those are called slack loops. Mm-hmm. And what that is because this is a fiber optic cable, and the backbone fiber is 288 of these little hair size, and I have to show you a sample of it sometimes, but it's 288 fibers in that backbone cable, and it has to be spliced together. and each one of those fibers has to be fused together, and it takes a long time to do it. But if something happens and that cable is cut, they have to be able to pull enough cable back to the splicing trailer and re-splice that. So they've got loops of extra fiber. That's just spare fiber to, in case they need it, they can pull that too and have it so they can splice it, so they don't have to come hang an entire new loop. So that's what that is. Those are slack loops, and those are every few holes. They hang on a bracket right there, and usually what you're going to find is there's also a splice case right there. That's where they're spliced together. Okay. That's where two fibers come together, and then they make enough slack to where if they need to pull extra out, they can.
So those are always going to be there?
Those are always going to be there, yes. Okay. We
got
hope
one
they're
more
always going to be there, because if not, that means the cable's been cut somewhere and we've had to pull that out. So
that one sitting in front of your house, Russ, is always going to be there.
Always going to be. You know.
Can I ask one question kind of
Sure.
related to that slack loop? So, like, I know when a tree falls on the power line, you know, you call Joe Wheeler. They send that awesome crew out there. They cut the light back on for us.
Yes.
Is there going to be? I'm sure. Are they going to be kind of like on standby 24/7, like the electrical company? Or are they going to be more spaced out?
Oh no, we so eventually we will have our own crews that will be on call, and it may be actual linemen who are on call to repair that. Right now, we have our contractors who are working on call in case of an emergency like that. In case of an emergency outage in the middle of the night, we have them on standby where we can call them out to do that. Now, that being said, that this fiber cable is very tough, especially that backbone, the big fiber. It has a ceramic core, and it also has a Kevlar jacket, and it's pretty stiff. It'll usually the pole will break before the fiber does.
Wow.
So, you know, that stuff's pretty strong. And it's just a training thing, you know, teaching our linemen, and they know that, you know, we don't cut it. We've got to have to get it back up if a tree's on top of it, stuff like that. And that doesn't mean it will never break. It can. But, you know, once the system is completely built out, there'll be enough redundancy in the system. And that's why we're building 3 loops. And we'll have internet connections coming in from, I can't remember if it's 4 or 8 different locations. But when it's completely done, it'll be about 8 locations. That'll be going from, you know, going toward Nashville, going toward Memphis, going toward Birmingham and Atlanta. And I mean, as many, you know, we want to make sure that if one system goes down, we're still up from the other side. And once all these loops are in place, if the fiber gets cut, because it's not like electricity, it's light, so it'll keep traveling from the other end, and all that will be affected are the people right there at the cut, and not the entire system.
Now, thinking about when you say entire system, this is covering not just Lawrence County and a little bit of Morgan. I mean, this covers most of Morgan County. Is that right?
Yes.
And Lawrence County?
This covers all of Lawrence County pretty much, except for Cortland. It's our electric members, and Cortland is not a member. You know, Cortland has their own electric system. Mm-hmm. And then it will cover just about all of Morgan County except for Decatur and Hartselle proper. And we do kind of go around Hartselle a lot. And then some up on the ridge, Union Hill and that area. Arab Electric covers up on top of the ridge over in the far east side of Morgan County. So, like I said, it's about 43,000 meters, 43,000 customers. And when we're done, we will go past every one of those.
All right. just I know I didn't warn you on this, and you may not have an answer for me. But exactly how many miles of cable are we putting up?
3,600 miles.
3,600 miles.
Yes. We're at about 160 now, so that tells you how much is up.
That's not a big dent. When
Well,
you really look at it, that's not a big dent.
It's not. It's a good start, but I mean, after all, when we launched this, we did say it's a 5-year project, and that's the
right.
thing we need. I'd like for people to keep in mind. I understand, people really want this, and I get calls every day. I hate when I get the call and have to tell them that you're looking at another year and a half, 2 years before we're there. But the fiber's not there yet. We have to build this system. This is an entire build from the ground up. There's nothing there, so we're going as quick as we can. I think we're making pretty good progress, especially considering everything shut down last year.
Right. Now, I got one more question, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Melissa for all the technical stuff. But now, with this being such a massive 3,600 miles of cable and everything, 43,000 customers?
43,000, yes.
I'm just thinking here, as far as from an information standpoint, are y'all building some sort of big data center somewhere, or is this going to be like individual spots, to boost this, or what?
So the way this works is it's linked, and it's one of the reasons that it's a little quirky in that sometimes it's going past some houses, but we're not necessarily connecting there right now. What we're doing first is connecting all of our substations together. And that's really how this started. Originally, we started looking at a way to connect our substations to fiber so that we could do more, I guess, smart grid technology, enhance our electric grid. Mm-hmm. And as we looked into that, we started seeing that, hey, we're going to have we could hang a lot of extra fiber space, a lot of extra bandwidth that we could, provide to our customers and members. And we started looking into ways to do that. So what it does is it jumps from substation to substation. Now we do have what we call a head-end building, and that's where I like to say the internet starts and stops. That's where it goes to the outside world. We've got one in Trinity. We've got another one over in Pence area, Morgan County. Mm-hmm. And that's where the outside fiber's coming in. And we've got a couple of other spots later on that will have outside fiber coming in. So it goes from your house to the substation, the nearest substation, whatever circuit you're on, and it goes to a cabinet there that's got all the equipment and boxes, and lights. It's I know that's a very technical term, the flashy lights, but and then from there it goes back to the head-end building where it's a bigger building with lots more equipment in there, and then from there it sends it to the outside world. So we don't necessarily have a data center. It's not really servers that are collecting and storing data. It's all passed through. It goes to the outside world and comes back in.
Yeah, I'd noticed that out in Trinity at the Joe Wheeler facility, there was a new little building that got plopped in with a crane, and then I noticed there was another one at the substation here in Moulton that had been plopped in, and yes. I was wondering. I had a feeling that all of that tied in to the flash fiber, but I was kind of wondering if that was just like a little jump through to boost that signal out or what.
Sort of, but yeah. So the one in Moulton is it's a smaller version of. It's not really a head-end building. It's just that there's so many lines coming into Moulton's kind of a central location with a lot of customers potentially coming out of that. So it's more equipment, it's more racks that handle those, all that equipment. And so we needed a little bit bigger than just the cabinets. But each substation will have a cabinet.
Okay. Well, Melissa, I'm going to let you take off on all these technical questions because I don't. You had to explain to me what a D-slam is. I thought that was going down to Dunkin' Donuts or something. So
Her questions are outside our bandwidth.
There you go. That's about right for me.
So, Daniel, do you want to tell? I'll ask the question about D-slams. Do you want to tell everyone what D-slam is?
I'm going to leave that to you because I'll butcher it.
Oh, Lord.
All I can tell you is that's where we tie in. That's about as much as I've figured out about it.
Basically, a D-slam is where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, it is where one fiber comes in and all the houses connect.
Okay.
That's a simplistic term, but it's the true definition for everyone is a network distribution device that aggregates individual subscriber lines into a high capacity uplink.
Okay. So we do have a version that's not DSL. It's so it's not copper wire. It's all fiber, and these are all our system is fiber from the home, so it's from the modem, fiber all the way back. It is so what that fiber goes to that cabinet, and it's a 10 gig PON system is what that is. It'll handle each port will handle up to 24 customers, and there's plenty of space on that 10 gigs for each that while you're technically, I guess, sharing that bandwidth, you're not going to bump up against, you're going to get the bandwidth that you pay for. It's not a true shared, it's not like there's 100 megs going out and the more people that get on it, the less portion of that you get. The way we've got this built is you're going to get the bandwidth, the speeds that you pay for, and of course, if not, we'll build up and make it to where you can. That's what we've promised from the very beginning, and that's what we're providing even to the 2 gig customers. Those are our symmetrical speeds, so that's up and down. If you're doing a 1 gig system, the 1 gig package, you're going to get 1 gig up and 1 gig back down.
That's good. Because I know a lot of times, a lot of people see that when they order, especially with copper, your upload speeds are not what your download speeds are, so it really hurts you. And people don't realize it really does affect you, especially in video calls.
Well, and we've seen a lot of that. I guess before the pandemic, I don't know that a lot of people paid much attention to their upload speed.
No.
But then once they started doing video streams and schools, schoolwork and that kind of thing, it really, there were some, but now people are really noticing that. And these speeds, there's 2 fibers that come into your home. One of them's for up, one of them's for down. And those speeds are, we're seeing consistent speeds in those ranges. Now, I will say, when we go out and we install, we test at the modem. We plug into the modem, we test. That's where we test the speeds. And so we're getting 1 gig. We can also see from the office, we can see the modem and see what the speeds are there. So we're seeing consistent speeds of a gig if you've got a gig, or a little over 300 if you get the 300 meg, and 2 gig. Now, I will say, every step past that modem, you're going to drop down just a little bit. Right. When you go to the router, past the router, your speed's going to drop just a little bit. And we have to take into consideration that, one of the things we found is a lot of people who've got the gig, they don't have a computer that'll handle Wi-Fi with gig. So all they're getting, they're like, "Oh, I'm getting this 400 megs," and then we go and test it, and we're like, "Well, it's coming through," and it turns out that your computer doesn't have a gig speed Wi-Fi card, and that makes a difference. So when all that's in order, we're seeing speeds 950, 960 somewhere in that range after the Wi-Fi. So I think and those are pretty consistent. Those are, once again, are up and down.
So speaking of Wi-Fi, what is the Wi-Fi signal coverage on these routers? Like how many square feet?
I don't know exact square feet. Your average home, it depends on if it's metal walls or anything like that in between. We have discovered that if you put your Wi-Fi right on the other side of a microwave, it tends to affect the speeds a little bit. So generally, we like to tell folks to put it in the middle of the house. A 2,000 square foot house, we're not having any issues with. At my house here, we've got a bonus room, and it's my son's bedroom, and up in the corner of the bonus room, it gets a little slow. So we do have a Wi-Fi extender, and we do offer those for sale. We don't rent equipment, and we don't charge rent for equipment. So we do just sell the Wi-Fi extender as $135, pretty much our cost, and they work with the router. We're using a Calix router, and it's a Calix Wi-Fi extender. And basically, what you do is you just plug the extender into the router and wait for about 3 minutes, and it puts everything on it, and then you just take it, plug it in, and it's a little box just like that. And it works very well. So we do offer those if your house is a little bigger, or maybe you've got a shop that's not too far from the house you just need a little extra boost. It'll reach there.
And I guess you have to remember that shop though. If it's metal walls,
if it's metal walls, we have had that situation, and the cure for that is to put it in the window.
Yep.
That seems to work pretty well. I did have somebody ask for an outdoor extender, but we don't have one of those available now. They're supposed to release one in the next, they said by next summer. So hopefully we'll have an outdoor weather rated extender.
That would be nice.
By that time, because people like to have Wi-Fi out by the pool. So
absolutely.
Melissa, you're just going to have to take and pull a wire.
I don't think
You ain't got no
wire
windows
anymore. I don't think we're doing that again. On these Wi-Fi routers, I know this day and age with kids at home and all that, is there any type of parental controls on these?
Yes, with the Calix routers that we're using, we also subscribe to what's called Cloud IQ, and that is a service that it's like an app that you can control. You've got parental controls. You can do prioritize
your traffic and stuff.
Your traffic and that kind of thing. We do have a couple of customers who we've released that to. We're still in the process of branding that, and so we're not quite ready to push that out to everybody. But that is something that's coming. It is available. It's just if you want that, they get the early version of it right now.
Is it going to be an upcharge on your bill, or does it come standard?
That should come standard. Like I said, we are, what we've said from the very beginning is we don't want any gimmicks, any tricks. We don't charge rental fees. We supply the equipment to get you up and going. Like I said, anything extra, the Wi-Fi extender. We also offer battery backups. But basically what we're charging for those is our cost. And everything else is included. We do require, there is a service agreement. So, and it's not a contract, but all it basically says is, you agree not to do anything illegal using our internet service. And you agree to, if you discontinue your service, return all of our equipment. And if not, there's a charge applied to that. So That's kind of how we work. So we're trying not to upcharge for every little thing. You know, if you get the $59.95 plus tax, you know, you're going to pay $59.95 plus tax.
That's good. You don't get that very much anymore, so that's refreshing. So speaking of gear, so let's say my router gets hit by lightning, right? What happens?
Well, hopefully it doesn't catch on fire.
Oh, that's true.
No, if your router gets hit by lightning, now we do also supply a power strip, and those do have a little bit of resistance to lightning. I guess they do act a little bit as a breaker. But if your router gets damaged, if your router gets is not working, we will replace it. There's no charge for that. Now, I think there is a provision to where if it just keeps happening, eventually we will charge you, whether you're unlucky or just, you know, doing something wrong. So, you know, don't put your router near an aquarium. But
is that an official warning sticker? I mean,
you know, water and electronics generally don't mix.
Hey, but you know what? They had to take and put that on some devices for somebody. So
absolutely. None of our customers, though. Our customers know better.
One question I just happened to think about, and I think it was covered when y'all were first coming out with this. But if I decide not to hook up to it now, but you know, y'all have come down, y'all have done my road. 2 years down the road, I say, hey, I think I'm going to switch over to Flash Fiber. Now, what was said in the beginning was, if you hook up when we're coming through, no charge. But if we have to come back 2 years later and hook it up, then there may be a charge. Is that still kind of the case?
Yes. And, you know, right now, while we have people out installing, we have construction crews out running this cable, and just to get it out and get it into homes. If you are interested and you want to get fiber connected at your house, no matter how far off the road you are, and that's really the ones that we're talking about. You know, we've got some customers that, you know, their house is a quarter mile, half a mile off the road, and we're going to bring it to you. We're going to get it to you. There's not going to be any charge to install. However, once we get out of construction mode, or we're on the other side of Morgan County working, and we've got everybody around you installed, there may be a charge for that. And it's just a matter of, you know, because then we have to bring people out and do that. We haven't, we're not there yet, and we haven't decided on what that charge would be, or if we're going to do it for sure. But we do like to encourage people to go ahead and if you're thinking about it, let's, you know, go ahead and get it hooked up, try it out. We think you'll like it, and you know, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to get our internet service.
I think you're going to run into a lot of that. Like, I noticed a lot of people are moving to Lawrence County. It seems like, even though census data has us dropping, it seems like a lot of people is moving and building houses and things like that. So I imagine there'll be a lot of people needing those hookups as after it's installed for a year or two. Then they're
well, and I'll tell you this: one of the things we found in our research is that this is going to be one of the things that brings people to Lawrence County. You know, I'll be honest with you. I live right across the Lawrence County line in Trinity, and part of the reason I live where I do is because of the internet service there. When I came up, you know, 4.5 years ago, I had 2 teenage boys, and it wasn't going to work moving them halfway across the state to a place with no internet service. And so that was a big consideration. I mean, we weren't going to buy a house that didn't have a high-speed internet service. So I think it's going to make a huge difference. And you're going to find a lot of people that's the barrier that's keeping them from moving out to the country, getting out and getting some space. Once they have this true, very high speed, gig speed internet, you're going to be able to work from home. You're going to be able to do school from home. And you get out in Mount Hope area and, got your little mini farm set up and never have to leave again. That's
True.
Well, you saying that brings to mind, I saw a story on the news back, I don't know, it's been a month or two ago, but they were talking about how a lot of these people that have been working in California, out there in Computer Valley out there, and now they're moving to like Idaho, Ohio, places like that, where their companies are saying, hey, we're going to let you just work remotely. Don't worry about coming back to the office. So they're taking advantage of that and actually moving to places where they want to be, not just where I've got to be for a job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can very well see, we see people from maybe California or something moving to Mount Hope. I mean, the little quiet town out here in rural Alabama.
Just
because,
so
hey,
they can telework.
Yeah, exactly. I've got high-speed internet. I can do my graphic design or computer work from Mount Hope and not have an issue. So, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also going to be a draw for employers. It's one of the first things that industry looks for when they're examining sites is they want a good supply of power, transport in and out, and do you have adequate internet service to supply us the needs that we have? So that's going to be a big advantage also.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the guys that work for Joe Wheeler. I mean, it can be pouring down rain, lightning, and everything else, and you'll see these guys out here working. I mean, heck, a couple of years ago, we had a guy or somebody, don't know who it was, came off the road, took out the power pole in front of our house. And the guys were out here till 11, 12 o'clock, getting that power pole set back to where it wouldn't fall over or anything. And then the next day, replaced. That they really do, and I can't, like I said, I can't say enough about them because they do a tremendous job to make sure that our power is on, and I'm sure that it's going to be the same way with this fiber.
Well, absolutely, and that's what we're dedicated to. That is our commitment, is to bring the same reliability, the same commitment to our communities as we do for the electric side. The story, and you may have heard this, and we kind of told the story a little bit, but I'll tell your listeners, we started this, Joe Wheeler Electric started because the big companies wouldn't bring electricity out to the farmers and to the countryside. The only place you had electricity was in the city. It just wasn't worth it to them. There was no money in it.
Mm-hmm.
So almost 85 years ago, the farmers, people out in the country got together and started Joe Wheeler Electric Cooperative. They put their money together, and that's why we call them members instead of customers. They actually we're owned by our members. And that was the same spirit that we started this with. Like I said before, we were looking at ways to connect all of our substation. But then we saw the need out there for, fast, reliable internet. It's just not in some places. And some of the bigger companies just aren't going to bring it out there. There's no money in it. As much as they say that they are, if they were, why hadn't they done it already? I mean, it's 2021. What are they waiting on? So we decided that we would get into this and see what we could do. and that's kind of how we got this started too. I mean, it's we're doing something for our members that bigger companies just wouldn't do, and that brings up, I want to be sure and bring up the help that we had, since this is a political podcast. I do want to bring up the help that we had within the Alabama legislature. Bronte Robertson, was a big part of that. He helped push this. He's been involved. He came out to meetings, all those meetings you were talking about. Mm-hmm. He came out to those, to just about all of them. I think he had to be somewhere for one of them, but I think he was at all the rest of them. Randall Shedd, he's another. He was very helpful over in the Morgan County and Arab side. He's another that was very involved in this. Senator Orr, and really all of our delegation. I'm leaving people out, and I don't mean to, but really all of our delegation. They had to pass legislation. It was HB 400, mm-hmm. And it was I have to look at this, make sure I get it right. The Broadband Using Electric Easements Accessibility Act. That was 2019. And what that did was it gave us permission to actually hang fiber on our poles and use the power space to do that. Before that, we couldn't. And there was a lot of pushback getting that done, but they got it done, and it was a really big. We couldn't have done this without that getting done.
Well, we figured that that's the reason y'all were moving towards Mount Hope more. Was y'all trying to get Bronte hooked up?
Well, we love him to death. Like I said, he's been very involved, but it's really more of a practical speed thing, and just trying to work where we can. He just happens to live in that area, so we're not gonna. We're definitely gonna get him hooked up as quick as we can, though.
Yeah, well, we Russ and I both real good friends with Bronte. We talk to him probably every other day or so. So hey, we'll give him a hard time every chance we can. Yeah. So,
well, I have told my boss. I have told Mr. Kitchens that sometimes I think maybe Bronte's trying to take my job, because I see him out there pushing this, and he's doing a good job. We have to.
He's handing out those flyers.
But I think that comes from he knows what this is going to do for the community and for his for the people in his constituents. I mean, it's going to be a life changer for them, just like electricity was 85 years ago.
Well, kind of moving back to the more technical side of things.
Sure.
I don't know how much more Melissa wants to go into that, but one question that I had, and again, I think this was covered in the community meetings, but how is this going to come into our house? I know you said that you're going to send 2 fibers into the house, but is that going to come to a box outside, or is it going to have to actually come in the house?
Okay.
And let me add it onto that. It was mentioned about, if your power comes in overhead, then the fiber will. If it comes in underground, then it will. Because like mine right now comes up to a pole that's sitting back out here, and then it comes underground to my house. But there's a carport sitting in the way right now of where it comes in, so we may have to do something a little different there.
So, all right. Well, so I have some visual aids actually. So the fiber, it's not the fiber that comes from the pole to your house is called a drop fiber. Mm-hmm. So in the areas where we're actually connecting people, you see those loops that we talked about, the slack loops. Mm-hmm. You'll also see on every few poles a little black box that has like little 6 or 12 little plug looking things in it. Mm-hmm. That's where the drop cable comes, and that's the cable that goes to your house. That's the fiber that plugs into that and goes to your house.
Okay.
And it follows the path of the electricity. So if it's overhead, and if there's enough clearance, we'll do it overhead. If it goes to the pole and then underground, we'll go underground. If there's something in the way, we'll either go around or we will send a boring machine and bore under it if we need to. However is the best way to get to your house is how we're going to get that there. Once it gets to the house, next to the meter, here's another visual way, we hang, this is called a nid, and it hangs on the side of the house. Mm-hmm. And inside this, and I don't have this one open, but basically the fiber that comes from the pole splices into one of these, and this is just the fiber that goes into your house.
Okay.
Small, thin, it's smaller than coax cable. It's plug and play, it just plugs in. That goes however the best way to get it in. So if it goes up and through the attic, if that's the best way to get it there, that's what they'll do. This is small, so it actually kind of tucks under soffit pretty easily. Mm-hmm. It's easy to hide. We do have a white version of this also. So if it needs to go through the crawl space, we'll do a crawl space. So however the best way to get it into where your modem is, and that goes and the other end plugs into your modem, and then from your modem we jumper off a little small cable to your router, and you can also plug in. These routers have I can show you the back of them. And these routers have plugs in the back, so you can go hardwire, Cat 6 cable from the router to the television or video game console, and get your full speed that way. And then, so that's how it gets into the house. There's not much more to it than that. It's not real evasive. We try to do it as clean and quick as possible and get everybody hooked up.
Awesome. Well, Melissa, you got any other questions there? I know
No,
you
that
gave me a
answered
list.
my question. I was just curious on how it transferred into your home, because I know people that are probably building their homes right now are looking to maybe pre-wire before it comes to their home. So like for us, we have Ethernet ran from our office to outside, so it sounds like it'll have to be straight fiber into your home.
Yes, this goes fiber straight to the now we could go straight through the wall and put the modem right on the other side of this box, and then you plug your Ethernet into that, and then your router at the other end of that. There's a lot of, and you can also use your own equipment, and that's something else I do get a lot of questions about. Is you don't, of course, the modem itself is just converts the fiber signal into a Cat 6, digital signal. So, but if you want to use your own modem, your own router, I know some people have special gaming router setups or different things that they like to do. That's absolutely, you can do that. You don't have to use our equipment. Our equipment is very good. I do recommend it. This Calyx system is top of the line. But if it's something that you want to do yourself, by all means, you're welcome to do that.
Melissa, you got anything else?
I don't. He hit all my questions.
Yes, Russ, you can play your Xbox while Melissa's working.
I play Xbox for 1 week, like during the month of December. So, like you, sir, I'm working on my master's. It's not a master's of arts, master of sciences at UNA as well in criminal justice, and I'm having to do that online due to work, etc. So I'm very thankful that y'all are bringing this to Lawrence County, because when she was working from home and I had to do something at night or catch up on something, we couldn't do both of them at the same time. And then also, I'm in the military, in the Guard, and then I had to take some of those classes online. There's some distance learning portions where I would have to take off work and be sitting at home at the same time she was, and they were live video type interactions where I sat here, a stupid COVID, it ruins everything. So I was having to do those type meetings. It was making it very difficult, so I appreciate that. But to expand on that, one of my electives in my master's class is cybersecurity. And the last topic we discussed about was the smart grid. And you rung some bells when you was talking about how y'all was trying to connect the substations through a smart grid. And that class was discussing the vulnerabilities to cyber attack on the smart grid, as well as like, you know, that 100-year solar storm. I think the last one they had like in the 1800s. I think they had one in the 20s, but we didn't have very much electrical things at that time. So you brought up a lot of things. I'm glad to see us getting that smart grid and that redundancy and all that. I think that's a big deal. Part of that class was saying how they was talking about the redundancy of the electrical system. You know, they're used to suffering from natural disasters and getting back online, you know, due to the redundancy and it being a grid. So I was glad to see that y'all were talking about that redundancy, and I just thought it was very important that that was already factored in. I just wondered, what's the susceptibility to like a cyber attack or anything like that, or stuff like that? I'm sure it's taken into consideration. And I don't expect you to discuss what
through the fiber system, or through, I mean, you're talking about the fiber side or the electric side?
I don't have a real depth of understanding of it, but I just remember them talking about it. So I'm sure that y'all taking some of that in.
We absolutely take precautions, you know, on the fiber side, getting into people's houses. We do have firewalls set up. We do have security set up on the incoming side. We do take all the precautions that we can on that. Of course, and on your home, if you're open to the internet, you are going to have to take some, some responsibility as to what you're downloading and that kind of thing. But, and as a matter of fact, when we first launched the system, we had a couple of issues with the whole system shut down, and that was because the firewalls were too active, and it would see something to shut everything down, and that lasted about a day or so. We figured we got it worked out, but all those, we do take security, very seriously on that end. As far as the electric side, that is also, we do take that very, very serious also, and always have. I think once we get the smart grid technology in place, and this is going to be a while down the road, but it will give us the capability to see everything in real time across the entire electric grid, our grid. And then that'll give us an opportunity to react faster to anything that happens. And of course, we'll put all security measures in place to keep anybody from getting into that. But it is something we're always having to push back against. We're always having to keep on top of, and they always seem to keep figuring out, as soon as you get one thing figured out, they come up with a different one. And so we're always on the lookout. We're doing all we can with that.
It was just ironic because it was just last week, I had to write a paper on a smart grid and the susceptibility to cyber attack and solar event or things of that nature. It was just kind of ironic that was, I didn't know that was the reason why the fiber came in. It just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it'll make a huge difference in all aspects. Like I said, it'll allow us to see, and that's why that's kind of why we started this whole thing. That will allow us to see in real time our entire system, and eventually we'll have switches that react automatically. So they'll be able to reroute power based on, if there's an issue somewhere, and all that's going to be made possible because of the fiber connections, the super fast connection back to the building. So we'll be able to do a true smart grid, and that's more reliable electricity for everyone. We'll know exactly when power goes off and where they're at. So those things are down the road a ways, but that is another benefit to this system that we're building.
So you saying that, is that going to be a kind of separate network over here compared to the big network of what we're using for the internet, or is that kind of intertwined?
No, it's a separate network. It uses the same fiber, but not the same fibers. It uses the same cable, but there's a certain amount of actual fibers that we set aside that will be dedicated to that side of things, and
Gotcha.
not connected to the other.
So fiber 260 to 281 is nothing but Joe Wheeler. So
Yeah, it's something along those lines, and that's about as technical as I want to go with that because I know somewhere out there's an engineer just going, oh.
Yeah, that was one of the. Hey, we finally found a question you didn't know a full answer to. So.
Hey.
All right. Well, Michael, I want to say thank you for coming on with us and giving us an update on Flash Fiber. I know there's been a lot of questions as people start seeing that cable roll running down their road. They're wondering, okay, I see that. Number one, they may be asking, what is it? But number two is, how long is it going to be till I'm actually getting this in my house? So you've kind of given us a little bit better idea tonight, and I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us and letting us know and giving us a little more insight on it.
Well, thank you much. I do have one sort of announcement to make, if you'll allow me.
Yes,
Absolutely.
And this is kind of this is sort of a big deal, and we've just really started looking into it. So, I told you that one of our head-end buildings is going to be out in the Pence area. So, with all that's going on over in the Priceville area, we are starting to do construction over that area. So, sometime after the first of the year, we're going to start putting fiber going out toward Priceville, and so we can start picking up those areas too. So we'll be working in two places at once, and then of course going out from there on that side. So that's something that we've just really sat down and started looking at just a couple of months ago to see what we could do to start getting people on that side as quick as we can. So the capabilities there, the resources are there, and we're going to go ahead and start working in two places.
Awesome.
So that's coming. So start looking out for that. So, and that kind of builds on, so some of the people out in the Priceville, Pence, that side of Somerville are going to start noticing fiber hanging over there too. So
awesome. Well, I've got some friends that I work with and stuff that are out that direction. I'm sure they're going to love that. All right. Well, I guess it's time for the standard exit here. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up and a like. It helps our channel. If you're listening on the podcast stations, make sure you give us a 5-star and hit subscribe if you can. And we're just trying to get information out there, and I appreciate Michael coming on and helping us with that tonight, and Melissa for helping us with all the technical side of stuff, because hey, even though Russ sounded smart, I know, well, he admitted he really didn't have that much of a clue about it. So and hey, if it's not video editing and uploading to YouTube or Facebook or something, I know just enough to be dangerous. So all right. Well, again, Michael, thank you.
thank you.
Michael, Russ, Melissa, Michael, I'll give y'all the last words.
appreciate you putting the hay down where the goats could eat it. You explained it in a way that I could understand. One of my coworkers coined that phrase, and I've taken it to heart. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Melissa. You're very, very smart on all this stuff. When she met me, I had a flip phone. Now I carry an iPhone and an iWatch. So she's changed me.
He's upgraded his technical abilities. I know Daniel and I are like little kids at Christmas. We're so excited.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much for having me on. Just like to remind everybody that if they want more information, to go to www.jwflash.com, and they can put in their address right there, and it'll show where they're at in the process, and get them registered to get more information. We'll be sending out the maps. We've got newsletters that go out. It's going to have the maps and the progress and that kind of thing. So visit us online, give us a call if you'd like, and we'll try to answer all your questions. So thanks for having us. We appreciate it, and look forward to getting super high-speed internet out to everybody as quick as we can.
Thank you.